When I was in middle school, my motto was put it in the recycling bin. I would put that random piece of paper, that greasy takeout container, paper clips, like everything. I was like, okay, let's just put it in the recycling bin. Because I thought if it's in the bin, it'll get recycled. And even if that one thing can't get recycled, then at least everything else will get recycled. After a few years, I realized that that is a myth. You can't put stuff in the recycling bin and expect it to get recycled. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Let's Think Green. I'm Riya, the host of the podcast, and today we got Pragya, editor, producer, and my twin. She'll just be hanging out here asking questions along the way because this episode is really important. We will be debunking the myth that everything in the recycling bin gets recycled. 32% of Americans recycle. That sounds bad? Well, listen to this. A quarter of that recycling is contaminated, meaning in that recycling there is stuff like greasy takeout containers, like little tiny scraps of paper and plastic straws, and yes, plastic bags that cannot be recycled. That all those things in the recycling contaminate the recycling. Decontaminating recycling is difficult, it's expensive, it's time consuming.
What do you mean by decontaminating recycling?
What I mean by that is removing stuff from the recycling batch that can't be recycled. That means when all your trash goes to the recycling center, the recycling center is sorting through your trash, removing the plastic straws and plastic bags and styrofoam. And the decontaminating process is expensive and time consuming. So a lot of recycling centers just end up throwing the entire batch out.
So this means that they don't decontaminate the recycling.
Yeah, they don't decontaminate all of it. They may just decontaminate some of it.
And throw the rest out.
Yeah. And obviously we put it in the recycling bin so it can get recycled. So just having it thrown out is counterproductive. According to One Plant Sanitation, a family-owned waste management system, if you're not sure if it will be recycled, throw it in the trash. Now that might seem counterproductive too, like, oh, it could be recycled, but honestly, having a little bit of clean recycling is better than having a lot of dirty recycling.
So what do you mean by clean recycling?
Recycling that doesn't have stuff that can't be recycled. Everything in that recycling can be recycled. That's clean recycling.
So how do I know what can be recycled and what can't be recycled?
Great question. That's what we're going to get into next. There are things that can always be recycled. Newspaper, aluminum cans, glass bottles and jars, magazines, and cardboard. Those things can always get recycling unless and until they're dirty or greasy. Then they can't. Then throw them out. But other than that, put them in the recycling bin. Plastics are not as cut and dry.
It really depends on your recycling center.
For plastics, yeah. But for plastics, there is a code, like a little system that you can use. On each plastic item, you may have noticed that there's a triangle with a number in it. That does not indicate recyclability, or that does not indicate that the item is recyclable, as you may have thought, as I certainly thought that a few years ago. It's actually a classification system for the recycling center to know what type of plastic it is and what the recycling process is. These, like the classification system is known as the raison numbers. It's a classification system of 1 to 7, and each number indicates something specific about the item in terms of recyclability. Now, I'm not going to go through like all the names of each classification because the episode will get really long and complicated and it'll just seem like information dump.
But if you do want a little bit more in-depth information on the raison numbers, you can check out our microplastic episode. We do talk about the raison numbers in that episode. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to put up a clip just on the raison numbers on our YouTube channel. Let's Think Green Podcast.
Yeah. But just briefly, plastics with the number 1 or 6 on them may or may not be recycled. So that really depends on your recycling center.
So like the recycling center near my home does take plastic one, but then some other recycling centers may not take plastic one.
Yeah. Plastics with a 2 or a 5 on them are accepted by a majority of recycling centers, so you really don't have to worry about if that can be recycled or not, because they most likely will be. Plastics 3 and 4 and 7 cannot be recycled. Most recycling centers don't accept them. Plastic 7 in particular, which is the most dangerous form of plastic because there are lots of chemicals in them, and they're the hardest to recycle because they're usually made up of various types of plastic. Virtually no recycling center will be able to recycle those.
So what is plastic 7?
Some examples are sippy cups, ketchup containers, and car parts. An important thing to note is items such as technology, so your computer cords, iPhones, cameras, and textiles, so that's like clothing, can be recycled, but they have a very specific recycling process and they can't be recycled in mainstream recycling. They can be processed at specific recycling centers. So your old computer, it absolutely can be recycled. I mean, you're not supposed to throw it in the garbage anyways, but a lot of computer like tech stores will accept your old technology to recycle. So make sure you take advantage of that.
Yeah, I know Best Buy, we recycle a lot of our old technology like cameras and phones at Best Buy.
Yeah. Take advantage of that, because even though your computer might seem like old and useless to you, there's still a lot of parts in there that can be reused and re-recycled. Another thing is textiles, your old t-shirt that has holes in it and that you know nobody else will really want to wear. Don't throw that in donation because nothing is really going to be made of it. Instead, send it to a textile recycling location and they will recycle it for you. In short, be mindful of what you recycle. Check with your local recycling center and see what they accept, because each center is different. And that will help you determine exactly what you can put in your curbside recycling. Be mindful of what can't and can't be recycled. So glass bottles, absolutely. Styrofoam, plastic bags, straws, little teeny scraps of paper, absolutely not, for various reasons. Be sure to recycle cleanly. We need more people recycling cleanly and not contaminating their own recycling, despite best intentions. So be sure to share this episode with a neighbor, a friend, a classmate, so we can spread the word.
And if you love this episode, then please do let us know. You can text us on Instagram or send us an email, and we'll make more episodes to better inform you on what can and cannot be recycled.
Yeah, and be sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcast or Podbean. It helps more people like you find the episode. Well, that's it for today. Have a great day. Let's think green.
Good job.